Okay, after the auction happens, the document that transfers title from the current owner to the successful bidder at a trustee sale is a trustee's deed upon sale. And that is going to let you know what the consideration that was paid at the sale was, what the amount of the unpaid debt amount was, which aren't always necessarily the same. Transfer tax, there'll be a grantee declaration, whether the successful winner at the auction was the original beneficiary or not. It'll have the deed of trust and the default information, and then it'll have the sale information, the date the sale happened and the purchase price.
Hey, Mike, I got a question, because
Sure.
I get a lot of calls where they're like, hey, I know this one wants to sell, but you know, when we show it, they seem to take their time sometime. I'm sure it's just hard for them to. Is there a time frame, like a required time frame that they actually have to post that?
Not that I know of it. It's up to the winner to record that
Okay.
that trustee's deed upon sale.
Because see, the problem is a lot of times you're like, I know it went to foreclosure. Well, I literally have seen it, 6 weeks later before that deed records. So in our minds, it may have gone to foreclosure, but the owner's still, the old owner of record, and it's, still in a trustee sale notice because they
There's no requirement to file it within X amount of days.
No, and sometimes the reason that happens is there's problems. There could have been a last minute BK filing that invalidates the trustee sale. There just could be issues that have happened that they don't record the trustee's deed until they resolve them.
Who's responsible for the taxes during that time?
Either the bank that takes the property back, or you if you bought it at auction. And as we were just discussing earlier, I've had a couple of my clients who have bought REOs, and the bank has come back and said, you're paying the taxes. And there were, in this particular case, there was a property in Orange County, and there were some liens by, for, property not being kept up and all that. So there were some abatement issues and stuff like that. And the REO company, the bank said, you're responsible for that. It was only like $700 to, and obviously they had a pool that they had to let go when certain things cleaned up. But the bank said, those are your responsibilities. It's not a law. It's not written anywhere that the bank pays the taxes when they foreclose. They're responsible for them, but they can make you as a buyer, if you want the property and you're getting it at a low enough price, they're just going to say you got to pick up the $25,000 in back taxes.
When would they do that?
This one, when they entered the contract.
The trustee sale?
At a trustee sale, you would know up front, because I'm going to tell you there's $10,000 delinquent back taxes. You're going to know up front what's owed. And that, if you're trying to get it, that will become your problem. So again, we are seeing some banks now making, well, in the past they normally would pick it up themselves. But again, they don't go to trustee sale for 7 years, so there's no rush for them to go out and pay money to the county to bring the taxes current.
Is there another question?
Well, and whoever walks away with it at the courthouse steps is paying the transfer taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
The document here, it's funny you mentioned transfer tax. I thought this was kind of interesting. The top line tells you the amount of consideration paid at the sale, right here in the red box. The bottom number is the amount of the unpaid debt. So this shrewd investor paid $1 over the amount of the unpaid debt to win this property. But right next to that, it has the transfer tax, not a public record, which I thought was kind of interesting. You can see the document exactly how much they paid, but they don't want the transfer tax a public record. The yellow box here lets you know that the grantee is not identified as the beneficiary, which means it went to an investor, did not go back to the bank and became an REO. The blue box here is the actual granting clause of the document. That's where the trustee signs the property over to the successful bidder, which is a company called Pro Value Properties. And in the red box here, it gives you the information on the original deed of trust. El Amin was the borrower. There's the instrument number of the deed of trust, and here's the information on the notice of default that was recorded.
And just so you guys know, I ran out of time, but I do have a sample of that property on the world that everybody can heard about. I have it. It's about 40 pages of documents that I'm gonna get to Sunny, so if you want copies of it,
What is it?
she can double side. The one on Laurel, 3109 Laurel, that actually went well below what was owed on the trustee.
What was the reason for that? IRS lien?
No, the trustee they can chicken out at the last second and ask for whatever amount they want. I mean,
Well, I understood from the agent that previously listed that property that there was an IRS lien.
but
Didn't
again,
show up.
and that's odd because again, most IRS liens, if you go to the IRS and you say, I'm selling this property short, there is no value in this property, they will release the property. They will, unless this guy, the only thing I can think of on something like this is this seller's never filed taxes for like the last 4 or 5 years. I've had issues like that. But normally if they file their taxes and there's just, they're owed money, but if the IRS sees there's no money in this property, they'll let it go. They'll release it. So I find it hard to believe that it blew up because of because whenever somebody goes in and goes a short pay, I've always said the IRS and the state are usually the least of your worries because they generally will release the property if they know there's no money to be had in it. They're not gonna. They don't
Usually
want to
the
own
second trustee year.
I mean, I'm sorry. What?
It's usually the second trustee year, another lien holder that's causing the holdup.
On that, I don't. The second trustee would have to make the first hole. So.
No, what she's trying to say is it'll be some other problem, not the state
Right.
or
Oh,
federal.
as far as on a short pay, if a Fed and
Yeah.
state, normally they're going to go away, right, Mike? I mean,
Normally they are, but they still need to be addressed, and they do take time, so you don't want to ignore them or wait. till-
well, yeah, I don't want you to glance over them. I just want to say that you start
I mean, it's
negotiating,
definitely
but
an
they
issue.
generally.
You gotta go down to Laguna Niguel for feds.
To get a demand or to get the
Get a release.
negotiation. Yes.
They have actual offices you can go
Right.
to and plead your case.
Yeah, you need to plead your case, and then they'll decide whether they are or not.
And they will do it prior to, Jim?
Pardon me?
They do it prior to?
You gotta take your
Take your
bucket full of
guide, your
documents
rest-
down and find a year.
Is there any advantage,
It's a
I know,
Time
that
involving.
the
process.
IRS sometimes will send out a notice saying your property's now, you're gonna pay less property tax because the value has gone down. So is there
It's not the
any
IRS.
value?
Not the
You're talking about the county?
County.
County. Is there any value in having that and then going to the bank and saying, well, this is what the county's saying, so therefore you need to renegotiate my.
Well, I haven't really heard of the county sending out a
The
notice.
county's not. Those are companies trying to make money because they want you to hire them for $1,000 to.
Well,
I know there are those, but I thought that the county actually does that.
The county would never ever want to encourage you to pay less taxes. Let's look at it that way. They want as much money as they possibly
You
can.
have
They
to
would,
petition them.
Yeah.
they
You
would
have to-
never
you have to appeal.
encourage
It's
you.
called-
Now
you have to make
they'll
an
work
appeal.
with you on doing it if you show the proof, but they're not going to send out. And those are all companies that are trying to make money.
Oh.
The only time the county actually gives up a little bit is on the homeowner's exemption. And that's only $7,000 off your net sale of your property. That's the only time they ever notify you and say you may qualify for this discount.
And here on the last page, it told you the date that the sale happened, which was, in this case, it was April 13th, and the sales price.
But that doesn't include the transfer tax or
No,
anything.
because they didn't put it in public record. And I think the reason they do that is because when you do your searches or your comp searches, they use the transfer tax as a trigger to find out how much properties are sold for. So if it's not on the document, you have to actually pull the document to see what the sales price is. So not that it's impossible, but they make it a little bit more difficult. They don't want everybody to know easily what they paid for it, so when they turn to make a profit, they don't feel guilty or whatever they do. Right in line with the IRS discussion we just had, I'm going to give you an example of what happens when the IRS exercises their redemption right, which means they have 120 days to redeem the property and take the property. This is an example of what that would look like. And it's actually in line with the trustee's deed I just showed you. This is the redemption that took the property from Pro Value Properties, and it now is owned by the IRS, or the federal government. And right here, they're reiterating the fact that this is the property, there's tax